WCW champion Hulk Hogan versus Sting. People talk about this match being such a disaster, and nothing prepares you for it. Even though I've seen this probably half a dozen times over the years, nothing prepares you when you come back to it and just go, I'd forgotten it was as bad as it is.
And 12 minutes.
It's bad from the very, very opening second until the very, very closing one. Hogan has been the biggest villain in the company now for 18 months, and he's held that world title hostage for most of that run. And tonight, he is going to get his just desserts. This is the culmination of Sting's storyline, one that they lucked into in a certain way by having him unable to perform through a couple of injuries, and which connected with the audience in a way that very little did in WCW. And the whole thing of just waiting to see these two come together was so exciting, just unforced. And WCW did so well not to go 6 months before this, get him back, let's do it. They waited to their biggest show of the year, and they got the biggest response they ever had from their audience as a result. And all this needed to be was Sting returns, and he says, no more. I am going to beat you for the belt, and by doing so, I will end your reign of terror, and I will have defeated the idea of the NWO. Simple. The only problem is Hulk Hogan doesn't see it that way. Hulk Hogan sees it as going, this is probably my story. And my story is this guy comes back and he can't beat me, and I get cheated, and then I come back bigger than ever. The main event was promoted with a press conference between the two of them signing their contract, not on WCW TV, but in the ad breaks of TNT's screening of Hulk Hogan's film Assault on Devil's Island. They wanted to beat the WWE, who were putting on a Best of Survivor Series special over on the USA Network. And so TNT ran a Hulk Hogan movie with Sting at this point still not saying a word, didn't speak at all. And it worked. They beat the WWF. It was one of those things that people were genuinely excited about, this main event. The problem with it is, after that, everything goes wrong. And it goes wrong from the very, very opening bit. Hogan comes out, and he's strumming his guitar belt, and he is arrogant and absolutely not bothered about this match. He should have come out really uncertain, really unsettled, nervous about facing Sting, and a coward. That's it. Instead, he comes out like, I'm Steve Austin in 2001. I'm the biggest star in the business. I ain't fucking frightened of nothing. Hogan knows how wrestling works as well. And when he's doing something like this, it's not a case of going, oh, that was a bad call. He knows what he's doing, you know? Yeah. Sting then comes out, and he gets what at the time would have been a cutting-edge light show. Now looks extremely basic. Looks like something you would have made on a BBC Acorn. It's got a child's voiceover as well. Very big in the 90s, that wasn't it? You know? La, 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 la. He's coming. All that sort of thing, you know? People were really like, that's so great, it's like alternative music or something.
From the ashes of a once great man has risen a curse, a wrong that must be righted. We look to the skies for a vindicator, someone to strike fear into the black hearts of the same man who created him. The battle between good and evil has begun. Against an army of shadows.
Out he comes, and he does look brilliant. Part the Crow, part mime, part androgynous goth twink. Michael Buffer comes out. You know I don't like him. He doesn't.
He does his thing.
Yeah, it doesn't even. He's
stealing a living.
I mean, just appalling. Sting is too mannered as a character in this for me. He's too tight-lipped and too sort of Undertaker when he was the dead man in 1994 sort of thing. So he gets hit and he just goes, and he gets hit and he goes,
yeah,
like that. And there's no sort of sense of going passion. There's no passion. He's taken a lot of passion out of it. What happens here is nothing happens. He just avoids some of Hogan's offence. Hogan starts walking around the ring. You shut up to the fans. One bloke says, go on, Hulk. And he sort of gives him a too sweet thing as well. Stick
to the thing.
Pretend you're the bad guy. And it's really stiff. And what happens is, I mean, had Sting come out and battered Hogan for the first, 3 minutes, that place would have erupted.
Yeah.
And instead, they just have Hogan using Sting a bit like a punching bag, and Sting staring back like he's David Flair, like he's never been in the ring and dried a bit. And they get a boring chant after 3 minutes. People have waited a year to see this match. And 3 minutes in, they're chanting boring. It goes on for 10 minutes with absolutely no interesting things happening. Hogan gets the big boot. He then does his big cup to the ear, getting the cheers from 3 sides of the ring. He drops the leg and pins Sting 1, 2, 3. And that's it. That is literally it. And the crowd are like, and Bret Hart suddenly gets on the mic and goes, never going to happen again. Never going to happen. Not going to happen again. Like, and
it's
so
at this point where you sort of got that really uneasy feeling. You're like, what's happened?
Oh, God.
What's happened? Because he definitely got carried out.
They've got an idea, but it's not clear enough what they're doing. And
this is when it starts to get like performance art.
Hart then runs in, he hits Nick Patrick. Hart then drags Hogan back into the ring because he's trying to leave with his belt, having actually won the match. Hogan then is thrown in the ring. He runs in a little circle like a leprechaun at one point, overdoing how frightened he is. There's a Stinger splash. The NWA run down, but Sting fights them off, and then Hogan taps out to the Scorpion Deathlock while Hart signals for the bell. The whole of WCW then turn up. You get Lex Luger, the Giant, and Louis Spicolli. Really noticeable. Low-level Louis Spicolli, a yellow jacket, and he's pointing to the sky.
Yeah.
And if you'd never watched it before, you'd go, it must be one of the big main eventers. No. And you get Sting looking to the camera, and he says his first words in something like a year, where you can't really hear it, and it ends
meow.
Well, it ends with him saying, no, mamacita. He's Spanish now. We didn't know that.
What a conclusion to this great event, and especially the ring just filled up with all the stars of WCW.
And for the first time, Sting had something to say.
I've seen some of the people saying that it translates as he looked into the camera and he said the Spanish for revenge is sweet, baby.
Right.
Don't know why he chose
Spanish.
Did he choose? Don't know. Really don't know.
It's too orangey for crows. Confusing.
Where are my eggs?
I have a cloaca.
So, what happened and what was supposed to happen are two very, very, very different things.
Right.
The idea was this was a throwback to the Survivor Series 1997 that had taken place a month before. And Nick Patrick, the referee, had cheated Sting out of the WCW title. And the idea was Nick Patrick was going to give a fast count.
Right.
And that was why Bret Hart would say, not again, this isn't going to happen. Someone's not going to be screwed over by a referee.
Right.
What happens, of course, is that there is just a normal count. So it makes Bret Hart look like a fucking whining baby who's like totally wrong and obsessed with something that happened to him, even when it doesn't happen. It makes Sting look like a complete fucking plank. It was believed that Hogan and Eric Bischoff had disagreed about the outcome of the match. The only outcome of the match was Sting has to win. And Hogan is very much like, that is not going to work for me, brother. The problem is Hogan has creative control. So if he says he's not going over, you're really fucked.
Yeah.
So they had to negotiate with Hogan what to do. And what was supposed to happen was the referee, Nick Patrick, was supposed to give that fast count. And for years, people had just said, clearly, Hogan had said to him, give it a normal count. Nick Patrick himself said it wasn't anything like that. He said it wasn't Hogan saying it. He said it was just so badly conveyed to him on the day. So he did an interview a few years ago. He said, Eric Bischoff came up to me and met me as soon as I got to the building. I hadn't even made it to the locker room yet. And he goes, here's what we're doing. He gave me a straight finish. I said, okay. I figured they'd dress it up for the rest of the day. He told me, just do a straight 1, 2, 3 count, not a fast count. An hour or so goes by. Hulk Hogan comes up to me and goes, about that count, man, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3. About an hour or so later, Sting comes up to me and says, hey, Nick, you know about that count? Rapid fire, baby. 1, 2, 3. Just like that. I'm like, okay. Ultimately, he decided he would split the difference between what he told and go somewhere between a fast and slow count.
That's
a normal count.
It's a normal count.
He did that match when it happened and he sort of realised what was going down. And he's like, oh, there was supposed to be a fast count. He got back and he thought, oh, I'm going to be fired.
Right.
I'm going to be fired. He said, but no one came up to me, so I just got changed and I went home. Eric Bischoff later, many years later on his podcast, said he did have a word with Nick Patrick. Everyone's so untrustworthy in this. Did I confront Nick? Yes, I did. Did I lose my mind? Did I scream and did I yell? Did I corner him and say, how the fuck could you possibly do this? None of that happened. It probably sounded something like, Nick, What the fuck? He would have told me whatever happened or how it got miscommunicated, which was clearly the case here. It was miscommunication. It wasn't Hulk Hogan working a gimmick. It wasn't any of that. It was poor communication. It just irks me to have to still listen to people espouse this narrative of it was just another Hulk Hogan plan. By the way, he would have got nothing out of it. Not true. Not true. Hogan got loads out of it. It derailed Sting, who was the big babyface coming back in. It derailed Hart, who was another big babyface coming in and the main eventer who's going to be taking up airtime. Hogan is still the one who won that match. He wasn't beaten. They cheated to beat him. So it's all good for Hogan. The reason they give for another thing, which again says it isn't miscommunication, it turns out that Hogan and Bischoff had seen Sting when he arrived, and both of them had decided they had no faith in him because they said he arrived without a tan and not in good physical shape, right? They had not seen him for a year when he wasn't wearing the trench coat.
Right.
And when he came out with his sort of thing, the other thing is they say he wasn't tanned and he wasn't in shape. He's wearing a full bodysuit and he's got face paint on.
Yeah,
right?
and he's a goth. So you can't be tanned.
This is making excuses after the fact. So Eric Bischoff has said he was going through a lot of personal issues at home at the time. And again, Sting hasn't said this. It's just Bischoff putting that out there. He said he just looked like he was unmotivated. And Bischoff said, look at that entrance that he comes out of. He said it was reflective of how he was feeling. It was melancholy. It was downbeat.
What's his character?
That was his he's playing an emo.
He's a bat.
He's an emo vampire bat. And you're like, oh, he came out, he's all glum. It's a character. He's worked you, hasn't he? But they both decided they had a problem with Sting's attitude and or appearance. So they decided that they needed to do this Montreal screwjob finish on the day. And it just sounds so unlikely. I watched the Nitro the night after and they had a rematch of this match. And I was like, I can't wait to see how they sorted this whole mess out and how they agreed to do it on Nitro. The first thing that happens in that match is Sting turns up. He's tanned now. Right? He's really tanned.
He's cupering all up.
And Tony Schiavone does a line. He goes, he's in the best shape of his life. And I was like, all of the stuff about him turning up out of shape and untanned, absolutely not true. They had a match the following night on Nitro, and it's a better crowd and it's a better start to the match. And I put it on. What happens in this match is, again, Nick Patrick does a pinfall in Hogan's favour. But another referee comes in and restarts the match. And they decide, do you know what? Let's vacate the WCW Championship. They did the same thing again the next night. But watching that match, you can't see it because the Nitro it takes place on, the match stops halfway. They run out of time.
Right.
So you don't even see the ending. It doesn't exist. It's unbelievable. I was like, I can't wait to see how they do it again. And they were like, oh, fans, we're out of time. And it ends. And you're like, Jesus Christ.
Sends Hogan in. Oh!
Big stinger splash in the corner.
Gonna do it again. Fans, we're out of time. We're out of time. We're gonna go.
Ah, matey, mate. By the way, if you do watch that Nitro that took place the night after, it is worth seeing for that Kurt Hennig versus Chris Jericho match. Because at the end, Jericho does a lion salt where he is so close to breaking his neck. It's horrific. And Hennig then puts him in the perfect plex and he pins him. And at the end, Hennig is clearly either doing a rib or he doesn't like Jericho because he begins pushing his face and then he decides to pin him by sitting on Jericho's face with his face between his bumhole and perineum.
Right.
And Jericho is very much unhappy with this, and Hennig is moving to keep it there. I looked at that and I was like, absolute magic. More of that, please.
You say that Sting was having trouble at home. It is worth looking at the exact time code if you are watching along on the old network. 2 hours, 36 minutes and 10 seconds. I just get your read on it. He's definitely wearing a thong here, Sting.
A thong.
A thong.
Oh, yeah.
Definite little twinkly thong.
It is. And
that's not a box, or that's not a thing.
That's very much, that spandex is very much like the spandex that like Sensational Sherry would have worn to do a match. Sting has never looked better than he did at this point. It is funny though, you take part in that match and you go, everyone fucked it up. And everybody, like Hogan, Bischoff, everyone just turning around and going, Sting's fault.
Yeah.
You know, it's so shitty. But we are in for such a torrid ride through 1998.
Worldwide Wrestling is on the air. Tony Schiavone, the living legend, Larry Zbyszko, and for the next hour, we have some of the greatest stars in pro wrestling. Barry Horowitz will